Before we get started with this week's episode, I want to let you guys know we're currently selling our 2019-2020 academic planners. With a unique design, buttery pages, and the perfect size, this planner is perfect for the student, boss, or influencer. Head to the mintyboutique.com to check them out. Welcome to the TMB Women in Business podcast, created for the aspiring CEO. Every week, we provide you with tips on all things business and entrepreneurship. You'll hear from industry leaders on topics such as marketing, business growth, and branding. This podcast is hosted by Mahi Kolla, the 16-year-old teen entrepreneur behind the Minty Boutique, a luxe stationery company with a mission to change the world. Hi everyone, welcome back to the TMB Women in Business podcast. Today we have an exciting guest, Nicki, the artist behind Nicki Lenore, and I want to tell you guys a little bit about her before we jump into the conversation. Nicki has always loved drawing and painting, but after her two children were highly affected by chronic illnesses, Lyme disease, and co-infections, she turned her passion into a purpose. She used art as a form of self-therapy, and after posting some of the artwork on Instagram and seeing people express interest in her art, she decided to turn it into a business. She got a logo, applied for a city business license, and everything happened from there. Her artwork has expanded from watercolor and canvas to revamping vintage Louis Vuitton handbags, trucker hats, vintage flannel plain t-shirts, wood palettes, to pretty much anything she can paint on. She's currently working on wine glasses that represent the Central Coast of California, 805 designs, so that people who come to visit their beautiful area have a little piece of the Central California to take home with them. I'm so excited for you to listen in on our conversation today. If you'd like to receive an email recap of the episode, sign up for our email list at tiny.cc/TMBWIBEMAIL or tiny.cc/TMBWIB All right, let's get started. Hi, Nicki. I'm so excited to have you on the TMB Women Business podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. I am so excited that you're having me here on the podcast. This is my first podcast, so this is really, really, really cool.
Yay, I'm so excited. I have been following you and I heard from you and I love your story and I really wanted to share it on here. As you guys, the listeners know, the point of the podcast I really started was to share women's stories and inspire them to follow their passion at any point, and that's something that we're going to talk about today. So let's just go ahead and get started. So first, if you wouldn't mind, could you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're currently working on?
Sure. My name is Nicki, as you said. I am the artist behind Nicki Lenore. I am also a mother of two kids, a wife, and I live in the beautiful area of the Central Coast in California. And I, as I mentioned, I'm an artist. And so I actually I'm like a multitasker. I work on lots of different things because anything I can get my hands on to paint, I will do it. And currently I'm working on an order of wine glasses. And, but like I said, I do lots of different things.
Yeah, I was actually just watching your Instagram story this morning and I saw that you painted a Louis Vuitton bag. That was so pretty.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yeah, that's actually my bag. I love revamping designer, or it doesn't have to be designer. It can be anything. But I just felt with designer bags, a lot of people spend so much time and invest so much money in these bags and they use them and they go sit on the shelf. Well, I like to revamp them, upcycle, to turn them, bring new life back into them. And that was mine, which I'm like, ooh, I think I'll keep this one because I put my new design, the wave with the poppies, because California, their state flower is the poppy. And I love the ocean and I love country. And it just kind of like that design it really represents me. And so I put it on my bag. So thanks for watching.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. And as a fellow Californian, I love the flower as well. So it was really, really pretty. And you guys should definitely check her out. We'll have all of her links in the show notes as well as in the description of the episodes. You can go check her out on Instagram and wherever else you want to see her. All right. So thank you so much for the introduction. The second question I have is, how did you first get started with what you're currently working on? And
Um,
what's your kind of story?
yeah, okay, so my backstory is I've always loved to draw and paint, but I didn't realize that my passion would turn into a purpose until about, oh gosh, let's see, about 3 or 4 years ago, because both of my children have been highly affected by chronic illnesses, Lyme disease, and co-infections, and they've been highly affected. Like I said, our family's been deeply affected. So I turned to art as a form of self therapy. And I kind of had to change my mindset. And so when I was just kind of putting myself, into creating, I started putting some of my artwork up on Instagram. Instagram has been my positive place. It was kind of like my one place to control and, kind of like a happy, because there was so much negativity, sadness, watching your children being so sick. And so it's kind of like that was
Yeah.
where my place to be, where I can put positive things on there. And I got a lot of feedback. People were interested. They're like, you should sell your art. I was like, what? Who wants to buy my art? And from there, more and more people just showed interest, and I was like, well, okay, then let's do this. And kind of like the whole purpose was, just for actually, just to share on this podcast, it's like you're never too old to do anything. Turn your passion into a business, and now my passion has a purpose. And I started my business. I got the city business license, and I got a logo. I started my website, and there you go. Nicki Lenore was born. And now it's been about 2 years, and it's just been awesome. I've been watching my business kind of grow organically, and it's just been just way cool.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, and it is a sad backstory of like kind of where it came from, but the fact that such beautiful art was able to come from that does show that we can rely on something else to give us that kind of happiness. And even
Exactly.
for me in my business, yeah, in my business, designing all the products and inserts that we sell is what I really love doing. I can go sit and be on my computer designing for hours on end, and so I completely like realize and understand how you kind of came with that. So my next question is, what inspired you to keep growing? And you kind of touched on this, but what was your why, and why the purpose that you have in your business?
Well, the purpose, there's a couple different things where it's my passion. Like I mentioned, I turned to it kind of as a form of self therapy. And then once I started putting my artwork out there, people showed interest. And I was like, wow, this can really be a business. And then but then I kind of needed to figure out, okay, how do I do this? Because I don't know. I'm not a business person. And is that what your question was? Kind of go into what I've learned through the business, like how.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
Okay, so yeah, through this I've learned, so many things, and have experienced so much. I didn't have like a lot of money to hire people, like agencies or companies. And that's one thing I've learned, that what I like to share with people, you don't necessarily have to go out there and hire different agencies to help market, brand yourself. I did it all on my own. I learned so much through different resources like online workshops, joining Facebook groups like the Society Gal. That was huge. I met so many amazing women of all different industries. And also Instagram, hello, has been a huge free advertising marketing spot for you to promote yourself. And so just going and learning, the online workshops, and also attending events with other women or men or whoever in different industries, where you can connect with them, you can bounce ideas off of them, you network and collaborate. That was huge for me. So I kind of started from all on my own. I did this all on my own. I do brand myself, market myself, pretty much everything. I promote myself. But it's been awesome, and it's been a great experience. So if I can share what I've done, you know, to kind of help people along, that's, pretty cool. And I feel, that I would love to help other people, to inspire others, to where, some people just get this roadblock of like, oh, I just don't know what to do. But, you just kind of keep pushing forward, and there's so many resources out there to help you, and people, engagement with people, talking to people, really, just help a lot with advice and stuff. Community over competition
Yeah.
is my gig.
Yes, definitely. And I completely agree. Even myself, I'm still the sole owner, and we do outsource some things now that we've been in this business for almost 4 years now. And so we have grown to the point that we do, give tasks to other people. But in the first 3 years, it was just me. My mom was driving me to the post office to drop off orders. But other than that, it was just me sitting here and wearing so many different hats. And I think that's something that not a lot of people realize. And until you're actually an entrepreneur doing it, you might not realize the sheer number of different tasks you have to do to keep your website running, your social media, and consistency, and all these things. So, and I know that can be kind of overwhelming when other people are listening to these podcasts and thinking of starting their own businesses. Where do you think that most people should, kind of first start to ensure they aren't overwhelming themselves and forgetting why they started the company or business in the first place? But where do you think they should first kind of get started?
Yeah, no, you totally get it. I personally, I was like, okay, so what do I do? Well, Instagram really, like I've mentioned, was my first. That was kind of like, okay, I can utilize Instagram because it's free. It's a great place to engage with people, like going on, the direct message pods, gaining, getting into those pods, and then you meet people. And first and foremost, always stay true to yourself. That's my whole thing. And community over competition is huge. So when you engage with people, others either in your industry, your niche, that's huge, because then people start gaining trust in you and behind your brand and who you are. And so people, like, I'm not an influencer. Well, I love skincare products and lifestyle and stuff. And I always share what I love on Instagram. And people have actually learned to trust me, and are like, wow, okay, you like that product. Well, then I trust you. So engaging with people, earning their trust is kind of a good start. And Instagram is huge. Like I said, is free. And then Facebook is a wonderful resource as well. If you get into really good Facebook groups, like I mentioned, the Society Gal is one. Femergent is another. Femergent has been a huge part of my journey. It was founded by Cho Spicer. She is the amazing entrepreneur woman who is all about, connecting, collabing, and helping others. And Facebook groups, like, it's again free. You can go in, you could meet all these amazing people, learn, bounce off ideas. So those are kind of the two first start to just jump in and go, okay. And then from there, you can learn about online workshops. Or if you're in an area like LA or a big city, they have workshops going on, and you can go to those, and that's when you connect and meet people, and you learn about your niche, or what, how to brand yourself, market yourself. Those are kind of the main. That's where I started, and then from there it just kind of grew. As more people I met, the more connections I met, the more my world just started becoming bigger. And I, from there, collaborating came in, where okay, for me, as an example, I'm an artist, so I paint on all sorts of things. So like you mentioned, the Louis Vuitton bag, right? So I paint on denim jackets as well. Well, I had a photographer reach out to me. She's a newer photographer, Megan of 4% Photography. She said, hey, I would love to collaborate and use your jackets, denim jackets, for a wedding styled photo shoot. And I was like, oh, heck yeah, absolutely. So for me, here you go. That's free advertisement, right? Free. She's taking the photos. She gets my product to use in her photos. It's a win-win for both of us. And so here my denim jackets, I did not know would be in a wedding style photo shoot. So that,
Yeah.
reaching out. And then I also reached out to a local blogger. She blogs about the wine country that we live in. And we mentioned earlier, my newest thing is wine glasses, 805 designs, because I love the Central Coast where I live. And wine industry is huge right now here. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to collaborate with you. I reached out to her. And that's the thing. Don't be afraid to reach out to people. Don't be afraid. Just go for it. The worst they can say is no. Well, I reached out to her and she said, absolutely. So I actually gifted her a couple wine glasses because she commented on mine. She's like, oh my gosh, your wine glasses are so cute. And I was like, hey, you want to collaborate? She said, yes. So it was, there we go. She, did beautiful photo with my wine glasses, and she's a blogger here locally. So that's advertisement as well. A win for her, and a win for me. And plus you meet the neatest people through all of this. So I hope I answered your question. I kind of talk a lot. And so those are kind of where I started, and it just kind of grows from there. Instagram, Facebook groups. And then if you can do online workshops to utilize, like I said, Instagram, since it's free, and Facebook groups, and then start collaborating and just building friendships, engaging with others to build that trust, where it could be a business friendship where they trust you. They trust the person behind the brand. If that.
Yeah, I love that. And we were talking about, community over quantity and how important collabing can actually be. And some of my first, products and the first people I got to purchase for my company were genuinely just from reaching out through DMs and asking,
Mhm.
would you be interested in trying out and giving me feedback? And that was something that they got to receive product. They gave me feedback, which I used to continue growing and developing our product. And then we got a little publicity when they posted about it on their stories or their Instagram. And so that was really, really helpful for me too. And now they have become some of my closest friends. Some of them are now starting their own businesses, and they can rely on me to help them with whatever they need in starting their company because I've gone through the process. They've helped me, and now we're close enough friends that they can trust me on that.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing, is the trust. And that's, where that's why, like I always say, it's always stay true to who you are, be yourself, because then people do see that, and then they trust you, and that person behind whatever your industry you're in, there you just they'll be like, yeah, that person's good.
Yes, and I also think that you were mentioning how the photographer worked with you for an artist, and see, like sometimes when you first think, how can maybe let's just say like a chef and how would they collaborate? But thing is, if you guys just start talking, get
Mhm.
creative, this is an idea, but and you can reach out to a chef and maybe paint some of the like plates they use or something like that, and
Right.
that would be so cool. And that's something that isn't really, a conventional collaboration, but it would still be something that both of you would benefit from and be a really cool friendship.
Exactly. And that's what it's about. I mean, it's also fun, and when people come together and work together, I mean, magic happens. You create all this cool things. Like I did not ever think that I would be doing anything for wedding industry. And here, my jacket,
Yeah.
I had no clue. She's like, well, could you maybe put bride? I was like, oh, heck yeah, I'll put bride on there. I mean, I was just like, I never thought. And that's where I just want people to know there's really, there's no limits. Just, you just, like you said, when people come together and you use your creative minds and you start, bouncing ideas off each other. And just like you said, with a chef and an artist, well, you wouldn't think those two would come together, but you said perfect example, where, and hello, in like the wine industry, I know that there's certain artwork that I do, paintings that actually kind of signifies people know me. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to mention. Like in my industry, in the art industry, I think with any industry, when you post things, you want something to people know that's your brand. Like people know, seeing my, like when I did cow skulls, watercolor cow skulls, they knew, wow,
Mhm.
that's Nicki Lenore. because that's my signature kind of
Mhm.
look, what I started with. And but like you were saying, like you wouldn't think, like I was like, a wine industry, what would I do? Well, I could, paint grapes and stuff. But then I started thinking, oh, 80, I live in the area code 805, and that's huge in our area. I was like, 805 designs, wine glasses, something that signifies our area, that people would know me, and that, we could relate to wine or traveling or take home. Like I designed like I mentioned earlier, the wave with the poppies that we talked about. Well, that started from a woman that I met. She um, has a beautiful lingerie line, very gorgeous, just beautiful, beautiful pieces. And she's going to be out here from Amsterdam visiting, and she asked me to paint on a coffee mug. So I designed something. She said, I want something that would be California, some flowers, something signifies the ocean. So that's where that wave with the poppies came in. And I designed that and I painted it on a coffee mug. And that, where I was like, oh, that's just like a little piece of where I live, what I did will be going home with her, and she'll have that memory. And so that's, just makes it all wonderful about what I do. And I think I just went
Yeah,
off
I love
topic.
that.
Sorry.
No, no. Go ahead. I also want to mention that when you're reaching out to people, don't be afraid if you get a no, because the thing is, there are just so many people out there doing so many different things that when you're reaching out, you will get no's. That's definitely
Yep.
for sure. I know, I'm sure you have gotten no's, and when you've reached out, I've gotten so many no's in my business, but it's the fact that you keep reaching out, be
Right.
persistent. Contact more people. There are always more people, and then eventually you will find the person that you're meant to be working with. And in the end, that relationship will be much more meaningful and much more impactful for you and your business than someone that you had your hopes on but didn't end up working out.
Yep, absolutely the truth. And if you don't get those no's, and I mean, you're not going to grow and learn, because you always can learn from everything, that's happened. So if it doesn't go exactly your way, well, that's a learning experience, and you need to keep learning, always growing and learning. When you think you have, oh, I've learned everything. No, you got to still grow, and learn. There's always something new to learn about it, and the no's will help you grow, because then you've learned from that experience. You can go, okay, so how can I change things up, and address, ask somebody else in a different way, or that's not working, so I need to tweak it and go some a different direction. So totally agree.
Yes, I love that. And I quickly wanted to jump back to the question of, how do you first get started? And I wanted to add, you mentioned like finding your niche, and that's something that can be really intimidating
Mhm.
because a lot of people feel like once you kind of pick one thing, you can't jump from it. You'll lose your brand and things like that. And I actually want to share my story of how our company first started off selling paper clips and like charms and things like that, but we switched kind of completely. And before we were a very cutesy brand, and now we're much more minimalistic, luxe, and a business professional. And that's something, but we were still in the same niche of stationery. We changed kind of how our brand looks. So don't be afraid to not lock down your niche and just
Mhm.
be forced to stick with it when you first decide it, but be open to changing if that's something that the industry wants, or that you just find you don't aren't passionate about what you're doing anymore, and you kind of want to switch what your brand is doing.
Right, and that's okay. I've seen so many people rebrand themselves, and I've heard people, "Oh, I'm so afraid," in these Facebook groups and stuff, people will bounce off ideas, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm really worried. I just don't know." And if it's in your gut and it's in your heart, and it's the right thing to do, it's going to be okay. And just go for it and do it, because that's your passion. You don't want to stick to something that you're not passionate about anymore. If you want to, like you did, you switched it from something that's a little more playful to more minimalistic. And yeah, I share with people that your niche can be a variety of different things. It doesn't have to be, like you said, locked down in one thing. Be open.
Definitely. And I think yes, definitely. And something that I heard on in a recent YouTube video was that the idea of having pillars of your business, and instead of having, like I'm only going to do, cooking videos, let's just say, you could instead have your brand be more focused on you and you as a person
Mhm.
rather than whatever product you're going to sell. Because the thing is, once you set your brand as this is the product, it will be hard to kind of for customers to change your perception of the brand. But if you make the brand more about yourself,
Mhm.
it'll be much easier transition. And so, what the YouTube video was saying about the pillars was having kind of different categories of your brand. So, whatever content you're putting out, have different categories that it would fall into. And those can be very different. For example, I might be interested in fashion, but then I might also be interested in cooking. I keep coming back to cooking, but these two are kind of these two are really different, but there's still things that you're passionate about and you want to share. But if you kind of establish with your customers or your audience that these are the two things that you can expect from me, all of your content will fall into one or the other. And people who are following know that and they expect that. So once if you start randomly doing cooking videos, they might be kind of confused because your brand has suddenly changed.
Right.
All right. So I want to ask you next, what can we expect next from you, and what are you currently working on that you're excited is like your long-term goals?
Well, I like I mentioned, I my art kind of just keeps going. Where people know me as like I mentioned before, I pretty much paint on anything that I can. So, and people will ask me. So, I'm just like I just do it. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna paint on a denim jacket. Oh, I'm gonna revamp. And like you mentioned, like the different niches. So I don't have just one, like a country or a coastal type of niche. I'm a variety. I go from basically country to Western to the coast to city. So that's my thing. I'm just growing organically. I'm just kind of whatever comes my way, I'm doing it. My goal is just to continue doing what I love, my passion, and what I do makes people happy when they ask me to paint for them or they buy something that I painted. That's all I can ask for. I'm just, that's my long-term goals is to, I mean, of course I would love to make lots of money and stuff, but, um, I'm trying to grow a little bit more. I'm always learning more about branding myself, I built the website on my own. I'm learning to kind of, there's a lot of stuff I'm, working on, learning to continue, working like, wow, I just can't talk at the moment, blah, blah. So I guess long story short, my long-term goals are to continue what I'm doing, just learning as much as I can, continue learning and growing. And yeah, I mean, I guess I'm sure that probably didn't answer really what you wanted to.
No, no, it's completely fine. I am definitely also I have, like my long term, like in 10 years, I hope that I've done this. But for right now, that my company is also just kind of going with the flow. Whatever opportunities come up and whatever I become interested in, I pursue.
Yeah.
And so I completely understand. Don't worry. My last question for you is one that I want to ask all of the interviewees and everyone who's on the podcast, but it is, what is one word that describes your business journey?
Oh, um, one word.
Take your time.
I know one word. Oh my gosh.
Or a phrase. I guess a phrase works too.
Um, okay, so a short phrase that would, well, I guess, okay, it's kind of what I said, passion to purpose. My passion now has a purpose in different ways, from just being a passion of using art and then turning it into kind of a self therapy. Then from there, it went to a business. And through my business, I'm able to inspire others. People want to buy my artwork, which makes them happy, which makes me happy. And also I'm able to spread awareness regarding both of, the diseases that my children have. And so those are kind of, I guess that would sum it up. It's just a passion to purpose in many ways, if that makes sense.
I love that. I love that phrase itself. Yeah, thank you so much. That was incredible ending. I love that. Do you have any last words, any last tips or anything you'd like to share?
My whole thing, like I keep saying, is just be true to yourself. If you want something, go for it. It doesn't matter what age you are. I'm going to be 48 years old this year. I was 46 when I started my art journey business. And it's, and don't be afraid. Be true to who you are. Go for it. Ask questions to anybody. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And, just follow your passion. If you have something that you really, really want to do, then do it.
I completely agree. I was 12 when I started my business, and now I'm
Wow.
16.
Woo!
I'm going to be 17 this year, which
Woo!
is insane. But I think both of us on both sides have kind of, it's the idea that even though many people would say like you're too young or you're
Mhm.
too old, it's you just have to do it. And if you want to do it, then you find the time, you find there's resources, and you just get started.
That's right. And good. That's so awesome. I love, like, yeah, we are totally on the opposite. I'm on the older end, you're on the younger end, but that just shows, like you said, I mean, that's proof. We're proof that you can do it at whatever age you want, just go for it. I love that. So good for you.
Yay!
That's awesome.
Thank you so much. This conversation was incredible. I absolutely loved what we talked about. Thank you so much, Nicki, for being on the TMB Women in Business podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it. I'm really grateful. It was so nice chatting with you, and thank you for having me on here. It's very cool.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the TMB Women in Business podcast. Check out our Instagram, where we provide you with the answers to all the questions you have about entrepreneurship. For an email recap of this week's episode, join our email list at tiny.cc/TMBWIBEMAIL. If you want to join a community of like-minded entrepreneurs where I give case-by-case advice to you, join our Facebook group. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you listen. If you're listening to this episode on our YouTube channel, subscribe and leave a comment. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you next week with even more business advice.